that happening now. Perfect. And Sean, how's the weather today in Turks?
I
Beautiful
was
as
going
well.
to say, as I look out my window, I can see one little tiny cloud. So it's not too bad. I think the air conditioning in the office is probably at a nippy 78 degrees.
Oh,
Wow.
lucky, lucky you. I'm based in Montreal, and I can't say the weather is like that. I mean, we do have some sun finally after a few weeks, but it's pretty cold here. So, which, like I always say, it's good for Turks, right? That's thanks to so much cold here. That's the reason why there's so much tourism down there.
No, exactly. It's why all the rentals do so well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to join and we'll get started in a few. Welcome, everyone. We're excited to have you guys today.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll give it just a couple more minutes. I see quite a few people joining in. And then maybe we can, it's 12:04. So maybe Anita, we can get started.
Get started.
So I'm gonna share my screen here, and here we are.
Thank you. So welcome, everyone. We're very excited to have you guys here for our first very own collaborative webinar. We're going to discuss the transformative strategies for profitable returns in the sun-kissed market with our very own Eduardo Mandri, CEO of Angel Host, and Sean O'Neill, who is the managing director at the agency in Turks and Caicos. So we're excited to have you guys. I'm also going to present a little agenda of what we have in the upcoming hour. So we have a little introduction, 5 minutes that we're going to talk about on each end. Then we're going to go dive into the vacation rental market and TCI with Eduardo Mandri. We're also going to be jumping with Sean O'Neill right after, who's going to be discussing about Seascape Townhomes. So this is going to be a full agenda. It's going to be really exciting. And then we're going to enter the strategies to maximize your rentals with Eduardo Mandri. And finally, we're going to go into our Q&A for the last 10 minutes. So keep all your questions for the end, and we're going to try to deep dive into each and every question at the end of this webinar. So welcome, and I hope this is educational and informational for all of you.
Thank you, Anita. And as you mentioned, the intent of this webinar is to provide you with valuable information, whether you are looking to invest in the Turks and Caicos market, or maybe you already have a property in Turks and Caicos. We're actually going to ask a quick question about that in just a few seconds. But yeah, we hope that you find this very informative. So maybe Anita, the best way to start could be and before Sean and I start talking more and introducing ourselves, maybe you can launch the quick survey that we have for the participants to would like to know, what best describes you, so that Sean and I can, to a certain extent, try to adapt this presentation to the audience, right? And to what you are most likely to be interested in hearing about. So it's a multiple choice question.
Do you see it, Eduardo? I shared it.
I do see it. I do.
Perfect. Perfect.
Um, um, and basically, we're asking you whether you currently own a property in Turks. Are you looking to become an owner? Maybe you are already an owner and you're looking to expand your portfolio. Or maybe you're a property manager, right? Maybe you manage properties in the island, or you're a real estate agent or a broker or developer. So whatever best describes you, you could probably be in two categories, but whatever best describes you, you could please answer. That would be amazing. And the answers, the responses will show up on our screen for all of you to see in just a second.
We'll give it a little minute to get everyone's answers in. I think we have everyone's. Oh, no, we have a couple of more people who haven't answered yet.
Perfect. So yeah, if you want to show us the answers, Anita, that would be perfect.
Yes.
Let us know if
The results. There we go.
okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we can see that 42% of you are actually looking to become a property owner in Turks and Caicos. That's very exciting, and I'm actually jealous of you. Then we have the second largest group. You already own a property in Turks and Caicos, followed by property managers and a few real estate agents. And people who already have properties are looking to expand into buying more. So that's perfect. So Sean, can you also see the answers on your screen? I think you can, right? That's perfect. Okay, good. So with that being said, let's get the presentation started. I think we have some very interesting information for you. So just as a way of introduction, my name is Eduardo Mandri. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Angel Host. And I'm going to be sharing with you information about the marketing Turks and Caicos and also about the specific strategies that we recommend for property owners and property managers in the island to maximize your rental potential when you have a property and you're looking to rent it. Just a very brief introduction about us and about our company so that you understand where all this information that I'm going to be providing you comes from. Angel Host is a company that helps vacation rental managers and owners grow their rental revenues. We basically do this by helping our clients with their listings, whether it's a listing on Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO, and crafting the perfect listing, distributing them properly, taking care of all the pricing decisions, all the pricing strategy, and as well as attending all the guest inquiries. So with this methodology, we use a bunch of different technologies. We actually use a suite of more than 12 different technologies to help us achieve the best in class results. And the strategies that I'm going to be presenting to you later today do work. Actually, we operate in quite a few countries around the world, Turks and Caicos, of course, included. And we have seen a substantial increase in sales when you apply all of these best practices, this secret recipe that we'll be sharing with you today as well. We operate in 50 cities around the world. We help manage over 1,200 properties with a team of about 80 people. And yes, we do have experience in Turks and Caicos. Currently, we have about 30 clients there that we help them with their properties and property managers as well that we help in the island. Okay, with that being said, again, what I'm going to show you comes from experience. These are just some of the villas and homes that we help represent in the island. So we've been in Turks and Caicos doing business for the past 5 years. So we understand the market. We think we understand the market quite well, whether the property is in Long Bay Beach or in Leeward or in Grays Bay, wherever the property is located. We have a fair amount of villas and townhomes and properties. So we understand how the market works there, where the tourism is coming from, the prices, what people are expecting, and so on and so forth. And so yeah, this is just a few examples of some of the properties that we help manage in the island. So let's talk about the market in Turks. I mean, it's a very interesting market. As of today, the latest stats that we have from the supplier called AirDNA show us that there's a bit over 2,000 vacation rental properties in the island overall. This includes, of course, North Caicos and Provo and the whole Turks and Caicos Islands. More specifically, of course, 83% of those properties are located specifically in Provo. That's obviously the most developed market. I'm sure there will be other markets developing in the future, but for now, this is the #1 market in Turks. And of course, 57% within those properties, many or most of them are located in the Grays Bay, Leeward, and Long Bay Beach areas, right? As you can see on this map, you can see the numbers here. So quite concentrated, the number of properties. compared to other markets around the world and other islands, it's still a market that it's in its, I wouldn't call it early days, but it's not as mature as other islands. There's still plenty of room for growth and development, and the tourism demand is quite high. So it's a very interesting market. There's no doubt. To give you a little bit more idea on the specific numbers, this table shows you what is the average yearly revenue that a property in the different islands would produce. So clearly Provo and West Caicos, is probably, it's quite high. Don't forget that these numbers are influenced by some of the very large villas that you can find in the islands. So it's not that your average property will produce $200,000 and more. I mean, there's quite a few that do, but it's just the average overall for the entire island. And when it comes to Grace Bay, and we isolated here the 3 bedrooms because the project that Sean is going to talk to us about is actually a 3-bedroom townhouse in Grace Bay. This gives you an idea of what is the average daily rate, the average revenue per day, whether it's rented or not, and the average yearly revenue. In case you wonder, if you've never heard of this term called RevPAR, if you divide the yearly revenue by 365 days, it basically gives you how much revenue you're producing on a daily basis. So again, just to give you a little bit of context and idea about the Turks and Caicos market. Now, the market has been growing. Like I said, it's not a very mature market. It's still in the process of growing, and more people are traveling to Turks, and more construction is happening. So if you've seen quite a bit of construction happening, it is true. There's quite a bit of an increase. In the last year alone, there were about 11% more properties added to the market, and it's almost 40% in the last 3 years. So growth like this would be concerning if the occupancy rates that come with it would be dropping, but there's also an increase in the number of people arriving in Turks. So this is pretty much following the demand that there is in the market for the island. A bit more information, just some interesting metrics that we have. The average yearly occupancy rate is about 60%, which is very healthy. You obviously have very high months like the month of January and February and March, and you have very low months like September and October, which is the perfect time to do any repairs or any work that you need to do in your property. Most people travel to Provo and in general to Turks and Caicos for about 5 days. We see actually most of the tourism arriving on Thursdays and leaving on Sundays, or Thursdays to Mondays. And people tend to book quite in advance. People tend to book about almost 3 months in advance. It's a fly to destination, and typically what we see with fly to destinations compared to drive to destinations is that the lead time it is actually quite high. And like I said, the average revenue for a home in Turks is about $200,000. Again, this is going to widely vary depending on where your home is located, the amenities that it has, the number of bedrooms, etc. But overall, it's a very, very interesting market, and from what we've seen, a great place to invest in real estate overall. And Sean will talk more about that. Just in case you're looking to invest, one of the interesting facts that we always look for is what are the amenities that homes should have so that people rent them more. And a very surprising one is always, especially in islands, we see this all the time. People are actually looking for hair dryers and irons and some essentials. They don't want to travel carrying all those things with them. So whenever they're looking for homes, they look for, it's obvious that all homes will have Wi-Fi or air conditioning or a television, but sometimes these smaller amenities do make a big difference in terms of your rental. So just some interesting information to share with you. Like I said, the booking window is about 3 months, but it depends on the month, right? During low season, people tend to make decisions more on the last minute. Whereas for high season, you're going to get your bookings way ahead of time. And this, of course, affects your pricing decisions, and we'll talk about that later in this presentation. And just one last thing before we jump and show you Sean's information. Another thing that we always look in different markets is what is the cancellation policy that most people have, because this can also influence your ability to rent in the island. And what's very nice about Turks and Caicos is that the vast majority of properties in the area have either a firm, strict, or super strict policy, which is obviously as property owners and as property managers what you want to see. And typically in most markets, what you would see is that for those people that have a super strict cancellation policy, they would attract a lower number of bookings. And what we see in the island of Turks and Caicos is actually the opposite. It seems that you can go as strict as you want, and you will still attract your fair share of bookings. So as long as your home, your property has a certain level of uniqueness, you can afford to actually have very strict cancellation policies, which is something amazing and something that I wish most markets around the world would have, but this is very particular to Turks. So I think I'll get back to this, but I think for now I'm going to pass you over to Sean, who's going to talk to us about this super interesting development, and then we'll get back to sharing with you a few more of the strategies on how to maximize your investment. So over to you, Sean.
Good afternoon, guys. It's great to see everyone. Thank you very much for allowing me to present on my favorite topic, the Turks and Caicos Islands. To give all of you a little bit of background about me, I am an attorney by previous trade who transitioned into the real estate world, partly through a love of marketing and the luck that I have to be able to promote these beautiful islands. I was born here to Irish parents, Irish educated. I like to say I've worked the trifecta of dirty jobs. I've been in politics, law, and real estate, which has been a great opportunity to transition those skill sets into working in the real estate field. For those of you who have some awareness, Eduardo mentioned some of this. The Turks and Caicos Islands are made up of over 40 islands and keys, of which we have 10 main islands that are inhabited. The majority of us live on the island Providenciales, which is where our international airport is located. And to Eduardo's point earlier, this is where the bulk of the commerce and the rentals tend to take place. Obviously, ease of access for any guest, and I think it speaks to the booking policies and the things that Eduardo mentioned, is that you have to fly to get here. We have one of the best airlifts in the Caribbean, and that has continued to drive business to the islands. We are a very young country. If you go back 50 years, Providenciales had 3 small fishing villages. So to think that we've gotten to the stage of development that we're at now and the opportunities that are still there over such a short period of time has been great. And we've obviously been able to look at things that have worked or not worked in similar countries like the Cayman Islands and the Bahamas in order to be able to provide a guest experience that I think really outshines everyone else in the Caribbean, because our goal is to be the luxury tourist destination within the region. As we've seen in the last 13 years, there's been an incredible growth in the real estate market here. Tourism and real estate are symbiotic industries and obviously link back to government with payment of duties and things like that. 2010, the bottom point after the 2008 recession, there was only $41 million in sales. Last year, there was one sale that valued double that. So that shows you how far the market has come along. And last year, even though 2021 would have been seen as an incredible year from the COVID world, 2023 managed to exceed it. And we see so much growth and development here in the market as a whole, particularly in luxury and now in vertical development. So as Eduardo's numbers would have shown, the single family home and villa market over the last 10 years has been the real driver of the real estate boom here. And of course, most of those villas come with the ability to Airbnb or rent them themselves. And obviously at the very high luxury point, we've had villa communities that are managed rental programs. But now we're back into the era of vertical development. And one of the things that we've seen over the last couple of years is that we've gone from condos and single family homes have increased by 10% in terms of the percentage of total sales that are there. You know, people want something more instantly, and they want something that's going to cash flow. But one of the things that gets lost in the numbers, because obviously some of the land values that we have here are a bit lower, when you look at them as a percentage of the sales volume, they're huge. So these single family homes and condos and those income driving properties make up the vast majority of what we sell here. And so when we look at that from an investment perspective, and you know, we very much see ourselves as advisors and not salespeople, and we want to understand why people are making investments and what it is that they're looking to achieve, because one, that helps us guide them during the purchase process, but also it helps us guide developers in terms of being able to deliver to the market in the future. So one of the things that we saw, particularly as we kind of came out of COVID-19 and the pandemic, was that, you know, people wanted properties now. They wanted to be able to buy cash flowing assets, because as travel increased after the pandemic, you know, demand, income potential rose. Even though values increased very significantly, that demand still remained in place. I think one of the things that you know, Eduardo can speak to in terms of where the profitability points are, there are important things any buyer needs to look at, and that's obviously, you know, beach access versus beachfront are two of the most important things. If you look at a lot of the condo developments that are on the beach right now, the vast majority of those require you to be part of a rental management program. And those rental management programs have obligations to all the owners to equally distribute all the bookings, and they typically have a higher management fee associated with it. So a lot of owners, in my experience, who buy there do more so for the lifestyle investment rather than the pure income one. There are some exceptions to that, but that is generally what people look at. But what people are finding now is that there is still a lot of opportunity to purchase properties that they can rent themselves, and they can generate a greater return on investment, but just being set back from the beach a lot. So that's why having access to that beach is very important. And of course, being near amenities. Depending on the price point that you're looking at from a guest experience perspective, you're going to have people who want to know, are they near the restaurants? Can they walk to the beach? What are they, you know, what are the trade-offs? If I'm not getting a property that's going to be beachfront, okay, I'm going to pay a little bit less from a rental perspective, but I'm still want to have everything near to where I'm staying. And of course, we're spoiled, because if I have to drive more than 15 minutes, I feel like it's a long drive. So it's all relative for us. But that is something that, you know, commonly comes up. And again, I spent time this morning with a colleague of mine up in New York, giving her advice on various VRBO rentals and the pros and cons of the places that she should stay. So that's something that we deal with on a daily basis. And I think, you know, to that point, you know, the Caribbean lifestyle is still the prime driver for people who are investing here. You know, particularly when you get to those higher price points. But the ability to generate rental revenue has meant that a lot of people who previously wouldn't have been able to consider buying what would have been a traditional holiday home are now able to make that investment. And, you know, we kind of say that you can have your work-life balance all within the same asset that you own down here. And, you know, that ongoing joke that you can't go on holiday in a bond, but you can go on holiday in your condo is a big driver. And then the other thing that people look at is, obviously, we have no annual income tax, no annual property tax, no corporation tax. So there is a big benefit if you're buying a property pre-construction, like we have displayed here, Banana Patch Estates and One Banana Patch in Long Bay. Because you're buying pre-construction, you pay on the land value and then have a construction agreement afterwards. So this has been one of those drivers that Eduardo spoke to about why new development and rental properties have seen so much success, is that the saving that someone can make, and it can be up to 90% of what the tax cost would be, incentivizes a lot of people to buy pre-construction. They can personalize their home. They make stage payments. The full cost isn't absorbed at the front end. And this has been one of the biggest things we've seen growth, and particularly right now, excuse me, we see in that sub $1.5 million price point, a lot more people coming and saying, you know what, I want to buy a home that matches this, that I can rent myself, because I want that balance where I can stay in it, but then I have control over what it's rented for, when it's rented, and I want to have that saving. I'm willing to wait 15 months to get the perfect home for me, and it's brand new. So this is something that we do a lot of work in, and we have a lot of clients who buy and developers we work with who kind of match this set. So that brings me around to the kind of feature property and kind of the focus that we were looking at today. So Seascape Townhomes is a 17 townhome development in Grace Bay. It's a second phase of development by the developers here. We have a number of other sites within that area that are going to be developed and explored as well. And so they are Canadian developers. Each of the 17 townhomes, of which we only have 7 remaining, are 3-bed, 3.5 bath, and 2,100 square feet. They are designed to be the easiest place possible for people who are owners who are traveling to be able to walk onto the plane with a backpack and have every single thing they need locked away within the property. The developers have done an incredible job tying together the various elements of the site. We're located just behind the Palms Resort, the Somerset, for those of you who are familiar with the islands. There is an on-site gym and pool within the development. I know those are some of the items that Eduardo highlighted as being beneficial from a rental perspective. There is an on-site management company, but the developers, with respect to this element of the overall development, are willing to approve Airbnb and VRBO, because these are the only 3-bedroom properties that fall within the overall scope of development. And they are a unique product, because I think that a lot of the buyers who come to look at it are taking a view that, you know what, I'm going to spend more time in this. These are people who are gearing towards retirement. They might live in the property for 3 months, but they want to have more flexibility to be able to use it. And one of the really exciting things about this, and again, because it's part of a phased development with future improvements that are going to take place, is that adjacent to this, as part of another phase of development, we're going to have a Seascape Sports Club, which will have a larger lap pool, pickleball courts, tennis court, pavilions, restaurant, and a lot more amenities for people to have right on their doorstep. So we feel like this really provides a unique opportunity within Grace Bay to get a property at this level. And of course, you're just back from the beach. You're 2 minutes on a golf cart to get there, or you're about a 4-minute walk. And you're sitting on Grace Bay Beach, where there are services and beach chairs and everything that you would expect from a resort on the beach. But here, our price point is only $975,000 for the property and $75,000 for the furniture package. So this has really attracted a lot of people who have looked at it from the perspective of, there's not much in this price point to be able to obtain, particularly for 3-bed, 3.5 bath, and to have access to all of the amenities and everything else that's on site. So we see it as a really, really exciting product. And the fact that you can Airbnb and VRBO it and work with someone like AngelHost to be able to make sure that you maximize the revenue that's there. Because we find a lot of people who come down, they're familiar with Airbnb and they're used to using it maybe as a guest, but they don't know how a lot of the things that Eduardo is going to be speaking to next work: dynamic pricing. How do you gauge the best way to maximize on your return? So I think that there's a great opportunity to be able to couple the skill set that AngelHost bring to it from the marketing and financial management perspective that comes with their systems, with an on-site manager who's going to be able to take care of everything on the ground. So as far as you're concerned, it remains that hands-off investment. You don't have to be involved in the day-to-day, but you're really maximizing your revenue while you're not on property. So if anyone has any questions after this in respect of Seascape, my details are here, and I'll put them into the chat as well. But we're going to be completing those at the end of March, and then we're going to be continued with phase development within that area. So I think that for me, at that price point, it is definitely one of, if not the most exciting projects that we have in Grace Bay at the moment. And it's always exciting to be at the front end of that and to see where the developers are going. So Eduardo, I'm not sure, I'll hand back over to you because I love hearing about what you talk about in dynamic pricing and the things people can do to maximize their revenue, because that's obviously why they're here.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sean. Appreciate that. And indeed, a very interesting project. Like I said, I wish I was in Turks right now, enjoying that pool. But yes, the next part of the presentation, we're going to focus on sharing with you whether you're an existing property owner or you're thinking of becoming a property owner, some of the strategies that we recommend following to maximize the return on your investment. Now, of course, you have to ask yourself the question, am I looking for a home to be my second home and that I very sporadically rent, or am I looking for a second property, an investment property where, yes, I'm going to be going there with my family or using it every now and then, but I also want to extract the most value out of it. So to help pay for the bills and to even maybe get a good return on that as well. So I'm going to be sharing that information with you today based on what we do. It's almost like a chef sharing its secret recipe. We hope you find this useful. And of course, if ever you would like to get our help, fantastic. If not, and you just find this information useful and you want to do it with another company or by yourselves, by all means, again, this is for informational purposes only. So let's talk about strategies and how in the world of vacation rentals, how do you nowadays in 2024, how can you make sure that you will actually get good returns, right? The first thing that we always recommend to our clients is implement some sort of dynamic pricing strategy. And dynamic pricing is just a fancy word to describe what most airlines and hotels currently do, which is they sell you at a different price depending on when you're booking and for what date you're booking, which is basically based on supply and demand. So in the past, you used to have prices by seasonality, right? Oh, during high season, I'm going to rent this property at $500 a night, and during low season, I'm going to rent it at $200 a night. And that's how it was done in the past and for many years. But now in 2024, and with all the systems that we have in place, that would be a complete waste, because you can have maybe days during high season that would never rent on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday night. And if you lower the price, you could very well get a booking. And likewise, even during low season, there could be some high demand weekends. So it's important to do that. When you look at any of our calendars, this is one for this month, you'll almost never see the same rate repeated, right? It's going to show very different numbers on every single day. And of course, you cannot do this by hand. You need some pretty cool technology to achieve this, that is always looking at how much demand there is in the market and how much supply is available. And this is how you can really start extracting some additional value for your property. We've seen that the usage of dynamic pricing by itself increases yearly revenues by at least 20%. So again, it's something that we don't just recommend, we think it's a must in today's world. And as such, when you're renting a property, you cannot forget that before you start fluctuating prices up and down, you need to determine what should be your base price and your minimum price. And it's something that a lot of people get very concerned about and very scared about when we talk about minimum prices, because when you buy a property, you get emotionally attached to it. And you start thinking of how much you paid for it and how much money you have put into it. So when a property manager comes to you and says, okay, yeah, this property usually rents for $500 a night, and they tell you, but every now and then you should be willing to rent it at $200, people freak out, and people say, like, what are you talking about? My property is worth more than $200 a night. And it's true, but the answer that I give them is, well, it depends. It's the market that determines how much your property is worth at any given point in time. And the same property that can be rented at $2,000 a night can sometimes be rented for as low as $200 or $300, depending on the time of the year. So whenever you are trying to determine at what rate you should book your property, you have to take a lot of things into consideration. Of course, the location is very important, but the amenities, the guest ratings, how many competitors you have, and of course, very important in Turks and Caicos, the cost of water and electricity is a major factor. Of course, you don't want to rent your property at a price that you end up paying more for the water and the electricity than what you're making in a night. But that being said, there's many other factors. The Seascapes project has, for example, the ability that with a golf cart, you can get to the beach pretty quickly. You're in a very sought after area. So those are things that really matter to tourists that are visiting the area. They want to be around that area where they have access to everything. So it does make a difference, and it can make a difference in terms of the rates that you charge. Be very careful, when determining your base prices. Don't use prices necessarily always based on a certain radius, because within a certain radius, you can have very nice properties and very not so nice properties. So don't make that mistake. Whenever we determine base prices, we really take a deep look into the competition and what's available. And then we do a very careful analysis to determine those base rates. Also, don't assume that because you were charging $500 a night last year, you're going to be able to charge $500 this year. It could be that this year there's more demand and you should be able to charge 600, or there could be less demand and you should be able to charge 400 only. So keep in mind that the market dynamics will always play an important role in determining your income. If ever you are faced with a property manager or someone that gives you a guarantee on the revenue that you can produce, I would shy away from that, because it would be like someone telling you that they know exactly how the stock market will be performing in 2024, right? No one really knows how the stock market will perform. The best you can do is adapt to how the stock market is performing. And I think the worst error that we see people making, and be very cautious of this, is basing your prices on what you think is best, right? And I mean this in the most respectful way, but a lot of times we see owners, they buy properties and they have a number in mind, and they say, it's such a nice property, so well located, I'm never going to rent it at less than $1,000 a night. And by doing that, you're just leaving money on the table, right? It's okay if you want to take that approach. If you're interested in just renting a couple of weeks here and there during the year, no problem with that. And it's also very valid. But if what you're looking for is to maximize your returns, to maximize your investment, then you have to base your prices on what the market dictates. Like I said, minimum rates, don't be afraid to lower your rates sometimes. Whenever we tell our clients, okay, we're going to rent your property sometimes at $100 a night, they panic. And when we explain to them that those type of minimum prices are only used to fill in gaps, right? Let's say you have 2 very nice reservations with a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in between that will for sure go empty. Well, it's better to generate some revenue from that than just leaving the property empty during those days, right? It's like we like to call it, I usually like to tell our clients, imagine that someone is showing at your home with a portfolio of money, and they're literally offering you, X amount of dollars to stay at your property. What is the number at which you basically tell that person with their cash to say, no, please go. I don't want to see you, right? I'm not renting for less than that. I'd rather not have the money and see my property empty than take your money. What is that number? And that's a good exercise to make, whenever you're trying to see if what should be your lowest rate. Now, what we have seen with over 1,200 properties under management is that there's a huge difference whether you are flexible or not flexible when it comes to pricing. And we've seen time and time again that the clients that we have that are not flexible, that tell us, try to dictate the rules, they don't just not perform well, they underperform the market by about 57%. Okay, so forget about the ones that tell me, well, my neighbor rented his property at $1,000 a night and I should be able to do the same. Chances are your neighbor rented it for one night, maybe at $1,000 a night, and it was probably the brother-in-law who paid you that, or some friend or something. It's not on a consistent basis. Whereas when we have clients that say, you know what, I'll trust the science, I'll trust the professionals, the revenue managers, the dynamic pricing systems, do whatever you need to do, those ones we actually outperform the market by 150%. So it's not a slight difference, it's a huge difference in trusting the science and not trusting the science. One of the questions we get asked a lot is, okay, I'm going to buy this property. Now I'm going to have this beautiful property in Seascapes. Where do I promote it? Do I go like in 1,000 different platforms, or do I just focus on Airbnb? What we have found specifically for the island of Turks and Caicos is that focusing on just 3 main OTAs does the trick. These are numbers that we have from all the listings that we manage in the island, and we're seeing about 70% of the bookings coming from Airbnb. So clearly, Airbnb is a very important platform. It's also a good platform because it gives you protection in terms of damage, and Airbnb tends to be very good at protecting the host as well. They're very strict, and they will not accept your home to be dirty or not well kept. You will be kicked out very quickly, but they're also very good at protecting you in case of damage or whatnot. VRBO, very important platform, especially for tourists coming from the US, mostly families coming from the US. Great channel, and also a channel where you can actually rent at a more expensive price than you can on Airbnb. And for the Europeans, booking.com, of course, remains a very important channel. So this gives you an idea of how things are distributed. And by the way, if anybody has any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A link that we have right there. We promise we're going to try to answer any and all questions that you might have. So don't be shy. Just type in your questions, and we'll be very happy to address them at the end of this presentation. All right. So one of the things that we do recommend is don't try to be on every channel. There's 1,000 different channels, and what I always say is that if you're getting, every channel requires a lot of time and effort to keep an eye on. So why be on 1,000 channels? Whatever reservation you're getting from a very small channel, you can probably get it from one of these 3 large ones. So unless you have a very ultra luxury villa and you want to be on Marriott's Homes and Villas, for example, I think these 3 platforms that I mentioned, coupled with your own website, that will give you really good results. Another thing that very few people in the industry do, and we strongly encourage our clients to consider, and we implement it for them, is what we call dynamic minimum stays, right? So if someone is trying to book one of our properties for Christmas 2024, if you try to book any of them as of today, there's going to be a minimum stay requirement of 7 days. Like, if you're booking so much in advance, let's try to catch those bookers that are looking, those guests that are looking for stay for 7 days or more. Why just rent for the one that only wants 3 nights? As we get closer to Christmas, if the property, in the unlikely event that the property has not yet been booked, then we can start lowering that minimum stay and say, okay, if someone wants it for 5 days or 4 days or 3 days, we're good with that. But that's going to be only at the last minute that you change that. So it's one of the tricks that has actually helped us maximize revenues in a conservative way. Another thing to consider are the algorithms. The algorithm is just a fancy way to say, how does Airbnb, how does booking.com, how does VRBO think, right? How do they decide with 2,200 properties in Turks? If I do a search, how do they decide which properties show up at the top? And the answer is actually quite simple. All of these platforms are looking for one thing and one thing only. They're looking to maximize their revenues. So basically, what they are going to be showing at the top is a combination of 2 things. One, what type of traveler you are. So whatever searches you make and whatever results you get are different to the results that I might be getting, or Sean might be getting, or Anita might be getting, right? Because we're different types of travelers. Maybe Sean has small kids, where my kids are older now, right? Maybe Anita's looking to travel with his boyfriend. So the platforms understand this and present you according to your particular preferences. But within those preferences, what they're going to show up at the top are the listings that convert the best. In other words, if your listing has the right price and the right pictures and everything, and it converts well, the next time someone does a search for a 3-bedroom property in Grace Bay, your property will show up at the top. If, however, you decided to put very high prices, or your reviews are not that good, what happens? People are searching and they're not buying your property. So why would Airbnb, Booking.com, and VRBO waste precious space in promoting your property instead of promoting another one? So there's something called a virtuous circle and a vicious circle when it comes to short-term rentals, right? You want to be in a virtuous circle where you have more bookings, you'll rank higher. And if you rank higher, you'll continue getting more bookings. The opposite is true as well. If you don't have a good listing, if you don't have the right prices, you're going to start renting less. If you rent less, your property will show up less and less in the search results. So something to keep in mind as well. So it's all about conversion, right? The factors that most influence how your listing is going to work is going to be the pricing, the ratings, your promotions, and your response time. These are the 4 things that will make the most difference as to whether you're going to have good results with your property or not. So it's important, of course, to learn to read your metrics. There's a lot of great numbers that Airbnb and Booking.com and VRBO provides you. And they basically tell you whether you're showing up enough times on the homepage, or once you show up on the homepage, are people actually clicking on your ad, and how many of them are actually reserving? And again, this information is not confidential. Well, it's confidential to you because it's only you that can see the listing, but you actually have access to this information. So we really encourage you to look into that. This slide, it's almost confidential, but if you want to take a screenshot or whatnot, these are our actual averages of us angel hosts with over 1,200 properties. That shows you what are the averages that you should be aiming for, right? So on average, about 45% of all searches, our properties come up on the first page. From that time, about a quarter of the time, people click on our listings, which means that we chose the right hero image, the right title, or whatnot. And from those, about almost 3% of them convert. Now, we have a very close relationship with Airbnb. They've been kind enough with us to share some of their numbers. We know that the average conversion rate on Airbnb is actually 0.3%. So for every 1,000 people that see your property, you're going to get 3 bookings. Our average is actually almost close to 6 to 7, right? And again, it's not because we're magicians. We're just simply following all the best practices and using, the right technology to get this type of numbers. But this is it's a good metric to have in case you're trying to compare. If you're already a property owner, you're on Airbnb, take a screenshot of this, go and compare yourself with these numbers. If your numbers are better than this, congratulations. If they're under this, then there's an opportunity for you to improve. And one of the tips we give is that it's not always about reducing prices to get more bookings. Sometimes you could have chosen the bad image, the bad hero image. It might not be that attractive, so people are simply not clicking on your ad. So you might want to change that image before considering lowering your prices, which is a common mistake that people make. And there's something that Airbnb recently launched called the guest favorite. So you have to try to get that guest favorite thing, which actually shows up here. As you can see, before it used to be the super host what counted the most. Now in recent days, Airbnb launched this guest favorite, which basically, if you have in the last 3 months, I believe a rating of over 4.9, 4.8, 4.9 in the last, actually it's 4.9 in the last 3 months, then you're giving this accolade of a guest favorite. And this is making a big difference because when people see this, it gives them the confidence to book. So you have to really work towards getting this. It does make a big difference. And of course, to get those good ratings, you have to keep 4 things in mind. Cleaning and maintenance. So Sean spoke about the fact that you need to partner with a good local property management agency. We complement the property management agencies, right? We don't do cleaning and maintenance. We partner with local property managers to take care of that. So you have to be very careful in who you choose because it makes a big difference. But also in terms of the attention that people receive when there's trouble, when there are problems. There's always problems in the world of vacation rentals, right? There's always an air conditioning that breaks down. There's even the people that will complain because the weather is raining, right? And they'll call you to complain. Why is it raining? It's Turks. It wasn't supposed to rain this time of the year, and you just have to listen to them and, maybe invite them a coffee or something, or give them a gift card, even though it's not your fault. But do whatever it takes, to respond well and respond fast. In terms of the response times, I just also want to put things in context here. In 2024, with so many Airbnbs, with so many people in the world of vacation rentals, the expectations of clients, of guests have gone up. So the average response time for guests on Airbnb, and this comes from one of our technology suppliers, is about 40 minutes. So if you're responding within 40 minutes to all the guest inquiries, you're okay, right? If you're taking more than 45 minutes, you will probably be losing reservations. Our average, but that's only because we have staff working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it takes us about 6 minutes. And we've seen that makes a difference. I'm not suggesting that if you are an individual doing this by yourself, that you'll be able to answer always in 6 minutes. You need to sleep, you need to see your family. But yes, ideally, the faster you can respond, the better the results you can have. And like I said, things do go wrong. We don't live in a perfect world, and the world of vacation rentals is no exception. So when things go wrong, never hesitate to make it, to approve to your property manager to make small discounts or to pay for, offer a late checkout, or give them a, go to the coffee shop. And I think it's called the Lemon Tree, the one I went at last time, Sean. I think it's right in front of your, I think it's that, right? And just, yeah, give them a gift card to go there. Sometimes, those type of things go a long way in making guests happy and getting a better review. And if you receive a bad review, which can happen, always respond. And remember that if your guest did not respect the rules, you can always ask Airbnb to remove some of those bad comments. We've done this many times for our clients. Last point we'd like to mention is that it's also important, as much as we rely on Airbnb and Booking.com and VRBO for bookings, it's also good to have your own website. So we provide all of our clients with their own personalized booking websites, or where they can invite friends and family, or post on Instagram or Facebook, a link to their own property. And that's a great way of also getting some trusted guests into your property and get some additional bookings. So that's also that's very important. And then never forget that we are in the world of hospitality. So it's not just about buying a property and putting it up for rent. We have to remember that we are delivering a service to make people happy, right? People are traveling, especially to the islands, because they're on vacation. They want to have a good time. So always focusing on that guest experience is super important. So try to partner with a property management company that gives you some assurances in terms of how they make sure that the guests are well taken care of. Do they have checklists? Do they provide regular maintenance, training to their team? In fact, do they recognize their team or not? Right? Even those things can make a difference in terms of how happy guests can be. All right, and I think this brings the just one last thing. Everything that I mentioned does work. These numbers right here are for a 3-bedroom villa that we manage, one of the ones that we manage in Long Bay Beach. And you can see here the revenues that they have had year after year. So we have managed from the time that we took it during COVID to really increase our revenues quite substantially. In 2023 alone, we jumped it by 35%. And these numbers wouldn't tell you much unless I show you this graph right here, which shows you what was the occupancy rate of this property during 2023. That's the numbers, the graphs in green, compared to the market, which is the line in yellow. So as you can see, we didn't beat the market every single month. In January, we must have done something wrong. We didn't beat the market, but every other month of the year we did. So we always compare ourselves to the market and try to make sure that our occupancy and our rates are better than what the market indicates. So that's something that you always have to look for if you want to know if your investment is doing well or not. And that's it. That brings this part of the presentation to an end. So I think what we can do now, Anita, is if there's any questions that people might have, this is the time to answer them. And just very quickly, if anybody's interested in understanding a little bit more about AngelHost and getting an audit of a listing, maybe you already have a property, you have a listing on Airbnb, you want to know whether you're doing things right or wrong, just scan this QR code, fill out the form, and one of our specialists will schedule a call with you, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and we'll tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. It's just something that we offer for free during these webinars in case you find it useful. So that's it. Anita, do we have any questions from the audience?
We have a couple of questions. I'm going to go right ahead with the first one. They asked, we observed an annual STR growth rate of approximately 11% over the past 3 years. Do you anticipate saturation in the near future, as into other Caribbean destinations, or has the growth been consistently gradual, suggesting a lack of oversaturation concerns?
Okay.
I mean, I think I can speak to that, Eduardo, from the real estate side. I think that we've seen steady growth over the years. I mean, because it takes time and investment to create the properties that get rented. I think that we are all very aware here that the thing that needs to be updated, improved upon in order to continue to facilitate the growth of the economy is particularly the airport. And that's something that the government and the airport authority have been working on for a while. The public procurement process and the checks and balances that go into that take time, so that has been worked on. But I think that we cater to such a global audience of people that our air routes throughout the United States and Canada continue to grow. The addition of the Virgin Atlantic flights to complement British Airways from England. And other opportunities that continue to present themselves to open up markets, whether that's in Latin or South America or continental Europe, means that there's still a lot of opportunity for us to be able to expand into other tourist markets. It's the infrastructure, and every developer who's here is very aware of that. The infrastructure needs to continue to grow with it. As I said, luckily, we are still at such a young phase of our development that we have the space to be able to accommodate that growth and ensure that the properties that are being constructed won't become oversaturated.
And what we've seen as well, Sean, on our end is despite the fact that the supply has been growing by about 10% per year, we haven't seen a decline in the occupancy rates, which would signal that demand continues to increase. But you're right. I mean, I've personally experienced some of those huge lineups at the airport, right? When both arriving and leaving. So hopefully the government will get to that in the coming years. But yes.
Perfect. So we'll go to the next one. Hi, I am interested to know your thoughts on the proposed changes by the Department of Tourism regulations to require an accommodation license to all rental operations, not just hotels, in addition to the business license.
So there's obviously a lot of checks and balances that are already there in respect of approval of properties. I think that I see a balance in it. It is incredibly important that we protect the nature and caliber of our rental demographic. The Turks and Caicos Islands, again, I've seen it throughout my entire life, having been born here. We were blessed by the fact that we relate to development. We managed to obtain a very high-end level of tourism that's able to absorb shocks in world markets and still be able to travel. We are a brand unto ourselves. So I do think that it's really important that we protect that and we ensure that the properties that are being marketed, are what they say they are, and they meet the standards that we expect. There's obviously scales of rental properties, and even if you look very simply, Amenyara and Ports of Call Resort are not catering to the same market, but there's still space for them within the rental community. I do think there are a few things that are in the regulations with respect to classifications of properties that buyers are able to work out on their own already. That those two resorts being an example. But I think that it is important. We do need to be able to find that balance to ensure that properties coming to the market match the expectations of our guests, because we all succeed together, but it only takes a couple of problems for it to spill over into the entire market.
Thank you, Sean. We'll jump into the next one. How significant is the impact of promotion through OTAs compared to solely reducing prices? What would be considered the most effective strategy in this context?
Okay, so what this person is talking about are promotions. So promotions are things that you can set up on the platforms to say, for the next 7 days, I'm giving a 20% off or a 5% off, or if you stay for X number of days, we give you an additional discount. So that is incredibly important in terms of how you use them. Because sometimes if you just simply, let's say you don't have the number of bookings that you were expecting for next month, if you simply lower the price, yes, of course, it can get you the bookings, but it's better to just leave the price and instead apply a promotion, because the moment you apply a promotion, Airbnb and booking.com will actually bring you to the top, and they will put a little banner that says, special promotion, special promo now. And that we see increases the conversion rate. So rather than blindly lowering the rates, we see that the promotion is a better strategy. Again, it requires monitoring, right? Some strategies that might work sometimes, some others it doesn't. It's not a perfect science. So nothing like having a quick, not a quick, but a constant oversight, right? Overview of what's exactly happening, and then you can make those decisions.
Thank you, Eduardo. We have that is it for our question. Oh, we have one more. How do you change your services percentage to revenue? What are the base fees to set everything up? Dynamic pricing and PMS.
Right. We'll be happy to, if you get in touch with us, we'll be happy to provide you more information. But at a high level, we do charge a commission on sales. It's roughly about 15%, but it's not something that you would pay. It's something that gets charged as what's called a guest booking fee. So when the person books with us, property that is rented for, let's say, $1,000 a night, we just top on that a guest booking fee. So it really doesn't have any direct cost to you, or to you as a property manager, or for you as a property owner. So that's essentially how we do it.
Thank you. I see Jeremy Wiggle has raised their hand. Jeremy, if you can please just type in your question in the little Q&A at the bottom, it would be greatly appreciated, and we will answer you in just a sec.
Unless the raise hand means bye-bye, or something. Or
Let's see.
Perfect. All right. So while Jeremy types his question, thank you very much, everyone that participated in today's call. Like we mentioned, if you would like more information about the Seascape project, Sean left you his coordinates. Sean, I don't know if you want to share it with everybody again, your screen quickly on your contact information, so that people know how to reach out to you. And thank you. Perfect. So I guess the best way would be to either send you an email or maybe a WhatsApp or phone number, right, Sean?
Yeah, email, WhatsApp, Instagram. I'm all out there.
Perfect. And I guess if someone makes an appointment with you, I guess a beer is included in the face-to-face meeting for
Absolutely, in the fridge in the office. I do see there's a question from Keaton Wright there about adding a car rental to the bookings to help bring people in. I know from as someone who has a background as an attorney, you naturally go to the worst case scenario first, and then work forward to everything working out the way it should be. I've had a lot of people who've asked me before, what if if I add a car, particularly if I'm in a location that maybe isn't within walking distance of the beach. There are a couple of potential pitfalls that kind of come with that. One is a business licensing potential issue where you're not licensed to rent cars. The second is that in the event that you have a problem with the car, and suddenly you have a guest who is expecting a Jeep Wrangler, to use an example, and there's a problem with that. Now suddenly you have to rent another car to make up for them not having it. And when I've looked at it with other people before, one mistake in the year, and that mistake could be the previous guest bumped it, on when they were using it, could end up wiping up all the additional profit you make out of having included that as the rental. So I think that's always a balance to look at. There's both the regulatory concern and the practicality of it.
from what we've seen, we have a couple of clients that what they do is they offer picking up the clients at the airport. So it's not really them. They just send a limo company, they send a transportation company, and then they factor that into the rate. So yes, it's very that has worked quite well. And instead of taking the risk, I think you're better off, like Sean says, like refer them to the local rental agency right at the airport. That's their specialty. They're very good at it. And guests will appreciate just you pointing them in the right direction, or at the most picking them up at the airport and just bringing them to your home. But definitely I would not get into and if you have a car for yourself and you have it parked there, just leave it parked. Don't lend it to them, because then you can get into many other types of trouble. We even seen this with bicycles, right? You're very well intentioned when you want to leave a bicycle, but the truth of the matter is that bicycles get broken, stolen, even a simple tire puncture, right? How do you deal with a tire puncture? You're going to get a call from the guest saying, I'm at the beach, the tire is punctured. What do I do? Can you send someone? And all of a sudden that good intention turns into a nightmare. So be careful not to, there's no need to oversell a property, right? And just let the different suppliers of services take care of those things.
I'm always a big advocate of partnership. And to what Eduardo was talking about, we are a small community. So you can build relationships and partnerships and recommended service providers for your guests that are coming. And a lot of these service providers will note and give referrals or benefits to people who are sending them their way. So whether that's a car rental or a bike rental, boats, restaurants, tour guides, things like that, there are lots of opportunities for owners to be able to put a value add onto their rental, particularly because you have guests who are trusting you as the property owner, and they're going to trust your recommendations to go to other places. So I would always lean very heavily in doing that. And then, of course, you're also, and this is near and dear to my heart, you're also helping support the local economy here, which is an important part and is always a very important element of all of us succeeding together.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think that's those are the questions we have for now. That's the time we have for now. Thank you very much again to everyone who participated. We'll be looking to do this type of webinars more in the future. Sean shared with you his contact information. If anybody else wants to reach out to us, best thing is to do it through this QR link. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Just a little side note, everyone will receive the recording to this webinar today. So if you missed it, or someone who missed it, don't worry about it. We'll be emailing you the link by the end of today, so you'll have it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Sean.
Bye.
Bye.
Sure.